we already mentioned about is microaerophilic bacteria, number 2 risk for the poultry meats. E. coli I will skip talk about here. Okay, we'll talk later on in exam 4. Yersinia, what is Yersinia? Yersinia is not a risk in the United States because the dominant area for Yersinia is pork chitlins, which is pork small intestinal. You don't eat it. In the United States, you make it as a byproduct, like the hot dogs make a casing, is a pork chitlin. I eat that before. You go some restaurant in a Chinese restaurant in Pittsburgh, you can get a one bowl at like $15. Some hot pot of the chitlins. But I want to tell you, there is a big risk for Yersinia if you didn't cook very well. Okay. Listeria monocytogenes we'll talk about in exam 3. In exam 4, vibrio parahemolytic, same as vibrio chorea. Clostridium we already talked about. So very briefly we talk about here. Okay, sucrose and the plaque formation. This is something related to the dental hygiene, dental health. We talked briefly. Okay, this is your teeth right here. The problem caused the dental decay. There is 2 reasons. Number 1 is a genetic reason. Number 2 is that if people eat too much rice, noodle, or those sugar-based products, what will happen? Those products is very high amount of sucrose. And sometimes it is high amount of glucose. And if you didn't clean very well, what happens? The bacteria will be formed. Will form biofilm. And what type of the bacteria it is? Streptococcus mutans. And this Streptococcus mutans is belonging to Viridium streptococcus. If you remember, we mentioned about Streptococcus mitis, bovis, Streptococcus mutans is Streptococcus viridium streptococcus. Then what happens? In the teeth area, in the oral cavity, it's low oxygen. So, kind of anaerobic environments. Once the anaerobic environments generate, what will happen is fermentation. So all those sugar, sucrose, fructose, glucose will go through fermentation, will generate what? Lactic acid. Lactic acid is very low pH. It's about 3. What happens? De-anemerization will happen. Will cause the decay. Because our teeth is generated by mineralization. So de-anemerization, the acid will cause the decay. So that leads to tooth decay. So said very simple, why will cause tooth decay? Is because in sugar-based diets, you didn't do a dental hygiene very well, the bacteria will form the biofilm. Once it's formed the biofilm, it's very difficult to remove. And in the oral cavity, it's low oxygen environments, they start to do fermentation. And the fermentation products is lactic acid. It's actually all other acids. Then we'll start to do de-anemerization. Then what happens? You have a decay. Okay, so that's plaque formation. Chloria, we already mentioned about the chloria. Basically is gram-negative bacteria is for the seafoods or food in the marine ocean area. What will happen? This is somehow we will talk about later on. Then very briefly, you have ADP with phosphates becomes ATP. It's a money, it's an energy currency, looks like some money. If something happens, is AMP, cyclase happen. Oh, of course, here is an AMP, okay? this guy will not happen. Instead of, this will become CAMP. Once the CAMP generates, everything will be bad. I gave you a very easy example is somehow you have some money in your pockets, and your pockets is locked. You can't use any of the money. Your life will be horrible. This is the same. If you cannot from AMP become ADP, become ATP to generate energy currency to be used, and your cyclist looks like a lock, will cause a problem. For chloral, what happened is we'll have an enterotoxin comes. Once the enterotoxin comes, we'll generate CAMP. Once the CAMP comes, it's going to attraction all of the water. So what happened? In the intestinal area will be accumulated water. So you're going to have a water diarrhea. I want to tell you one thing how severe it is for the chloral. 6 hours, 2 hours, you're going to lose 10 liters of the water. So what happened for the chloral treatment, the first thing you do is rehydration. It's not really antibiotics. You have to do this guy first. Then you do antibiotic treatments. Okay, that's the CMP to increase the sodium chloride. And I want to also tell you one thing. Why we have a whooping cough? Go to pertussis. Because pertussis toxin is an AB toxin. This toxin activated the AMP cycle is in alveolar area, so you have a whooping cough. It's the same thing. The cilia alveolar area, you cause a whooping cough. So every time when you see AMP become CAMP in the human body, all the bad things will be happening. Okay? So this is what we finished talking about here for the this section. Okay, so almost the time. So we have to rush a little bit on Thursday. We will talk about sexually transmitted disease and antibiotics. Okay.